joining us. I know, we haven't done a Zoom availability in a little bit. So, I guess we'll start with, if you want, use the raise your hand function, and we'll make sure you get called on to ask a question here. And we'll turn it over to Coach after that. So. Let's start with Jimmy Himes.
Hey, Jeremy, in your 6-week period the NCAA's allotted, what's it going to look like? Have you mapped out a plan for conditioning, lifting versus starting your camp?
Jimmy, we got the information today, and there's been a little bit of tweaks there. So, there'll be a process to where we try to continue to figure out, as we move closer to what's considered summer access, and with walkthroughs and meetings and things like that. But we've not formulated a final plan yet. Right now we've obviously have voluntary lifting going on, and and it's been really good. It's been good for our players. I know they're excited about getting back and getting started. So we'll continue to work a plan as a staff, and as we move forward, probably in the next 10 days, we'll probably solidify something.
You had indicated that with the way you teach, that you didn't think that young guys would be behind, that they would have an opportunity to come in and compete right away. What are some of the things that you think you've been able to impart to them that will allow them to understand your scheme and your system?
Well, we've been allowed to have Zoom calls for quite some time now. We obviously have a lot of experience coming back, and we have a lot of people within our program that have a really good understanding. I'm talking about our players for what we want to do. So I'm satisfied that these guys spend time with each other and coaching each other up. So we teach everything conceptually, and once you kind of get through the concepts and you learn to apply them, and of course you got to get down to the fundamentals of how to execute it. But I do believe there'll be plenty of time for all young players to have an opportunity to contribute.
Thank you.
Our next question will go to David Ubben.
Good. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. How would you describe the state of your team when they came back, and have you got to test anybody since they got back?
Are you talking about from the COVID?
From a fitness standpoint, and then and then from the COVID-19 standpoint, in terms of testing since you guys have arrived.
Right. Well, we started really slowly, and really leaned on our medical staff, how to get our guys back, going all the way back to March 12th till, June the 8th. That's a extremely long period of time without, instruction, and lots of these guys come from different parts of the country, and maybe where they were at, maybe they were able to participate in some workouts, and maybe some weren't. So we were very cautious, and and how they've gotten started. And I've not seen any of the workouts, but seems to be the guys are continuing to improve, with their conditioning in a hurry.
Our next question will go to Teresa Walker from AP, and then followed by Trey Wallace.
Coach, with what you learned today, how much at this point remains unknown, as far as once you get into this season and some of those specifics, travel, things like that?
We've not we've really not approached that yet. It's the big thing is we've got the guys back on campus, the majority of them. Most of them will be back. The rest of them will be back in July. So we're really taking precautions, from the COVID, social distancing, following all the SEC and NCAA guidelines. And, Geronimo Boucher and Dr. Chris Klink have done a fantastic job kind of giving us, policies to kind of follow. And our staff is doing a nice job doing that. And our players are, so we've got to continue to do that. And so we're taking it, really one day at a time.
All right, Trey.
Jeremy, can you update the status on Tim Jordan? And is he still on the team as of right now?
Tim is no longer on our team.
All right, we'll go next to Rick Russo.
Hey, Coach. A couple things. One, since the guys have been back, this is the second week that the guys who are back going through conditioning. What have you seen from them as far as their excitement about being back on campus, et cetera? And two, the event recently at Market Square and being supportive of the African-American athletes and the being part of the protest down there. Talk about that and what that all meant to you, Coach.
Well, to start with your first question, I think our players are excited to get back and doing what they want to do. I can't imagine being an 18 to 22-year-old, having, a short window here in college to have a chance to try to accomplish all your goals, in the classroom, on the football field, or whatever sport it is. And, the changes that have taken place, I feel like our guys have really adapted. And I know that they were really excited about getting back. For your second question, to me, when we came back, obviously right before the players came back, we had a lot of circumstances that had happened throughout our country that everybody was aware of. And, we started with really just sitting down with our team and really talking about it, and giving the floor to a lot of our players to share experiences so that everybody within our program would have a better understanding. From a communication standpoint, I think in my lifetime, this is the first time that I can ever remember with all the, the things that are going on that, not only from our country, but from really our world. There's conversation of how to put measures in to create change. And absolutely, I want to be an advocate of that and support our players and use our platform at Tennessee to help create that.
Thank you, Coach.
We'll go to Austin Price.
Coach, I know the hope is that Cade Mays will be eligible this fall. And I know in a perfect world you would have had spring practice, but how much does it, I guess, help Cade that even though he wasn't able to have spring practice, he's played under Jim Chaney before, understanding what he wants out of scheme and concept along the offensive line?
Well, I think it's probably pretty easy for a guy that, the same terminology that he was playing under. So it was really probably would be a seamless transition, so I think Cade's a smart guy, so football's important to him. So he spends a lot of time trying to improve as a player and figuring out a way to be the best player he can possibly be.
Our next question will go to Dan Harrelson.
Hey, Coach. You mentioned some of the newer guys. Really, they have a chance to be ready when the fall training camp comes back and when you get ready for that. But just kind of talk about how excited, especially on the defense side of the ball, to have some of those younger guys come in and just have a chance to build more depth more than you had the previous 2 years. How excited are you about that?
Well, I think with all of our young guys, they'll all have an opportunity. They all have the physical talent, to contribute. The one thing about freshmen you always want to be cautious of is putting unrealistic expectations on them. The day they got here, we met with them and talked to them from a football standpoint. We just want to get a little bit better each day. And as long as they continue to do that, they'll all be fine. Their opportunities will present themselves, and they'll have a chance to take advantage of that.
I will go to David Ubben, followed by Brent Hubbs.
Jeremy, the culture committee you guys put together that T was heading up, have you guys gotten any more ideas about what are some of the things you want to campaign for and use that group to do in the months to come?
Well, it's been really good, and it's something that T has done a fantastic job heading up and getting our players involved and getting feedback, and once he's getting the feedback is us acting upon it, so we're in the process now. We've started today getting all of our players registered to vote. That's a start. There's lots of things when students get back on campus, speakers that we plan to have come in here, some things that we want to do during the season. One of the things that we want to do is, when we play the Kentucky game, is we want to wear black jerseys, and when the game's over with, find a way to auction the jerseys and raise money and for Black Lives Matter, and that's just one thing that our kids have talked about, but it's something that's going to continue to be stressed within our staff, and with T's leadership and the guys within our program, there's lots of really good ideas and ways that we can help improve and use our platform to create change.
Brent?
Coach, when you talk to your players about, what to do when they're not in the complex, and you mentioned the guidelines, they have to keep following the guidelines. How hard is that to do when you got a bunch of guys, 18 to 22-year-old, that are back together wanting to hang out, in the evenings or on the weekends? That's question one. How do you handle that? How do you manage that? And two is, will you guys randomly test, or will you only test student athletes that are presenting with symptoms now that they've all been initially tested when they return to campus?
Well, I'm going to start with the last question. When it comes to testing, all that goes through Dr. Klink and Geronimo and all of our people on the medical side. I'm no expert when it comes to testing. They are. When you talk about the first question, you have to educate your guys, which we are. Obviously everybody within our program has been tested, and to some extent, where they live, they're confined a little bit, but if you go out anywhere, obviously, and you interact with people that have not been involved in the testing and you don't know where they've been, you're obviously taking a chance. So, it's obvious that's the way this disease is spreading. So, it's one of those things that you've got to have awareness, and something that we've continued to try to stress amongst the people within our organization.
I will go to Jimmy Himes, and a reminder, please click the raise your hand function in the participants menu.
Jeremy, regarding Jared Garantano, are you pretty confident that him having a second year with Jim Chaney and Chris Winkie will allow him to be more consistent?
I'm very confident with any player within our program. The longer you do something, the more you do the same stuff over and over, you obviously get better at it. Jared's a guy that has played a lot of really good football. He has a lot of experience to draw on, and it's something that he's worked really hard this off season to continue to improve himself, and I would think that absolutely he would have a chance to improve being the second year in the same system.
And also, I know you can't comment on individual players, but your recruiting has just gone exceptionally well. What would be a couple of keys to that?
Well, you have to have a plan. Obviously, over the last 3 months, circumstances have changed. I really feel like our recruiting staff kind of had a pulse of what was going to happen, what was going to take place within our country, and had really put a very good plan together and our staff done a nice job executing it along with our players.
Thank you.
We'll go to Vince for our next question. Vince, you there? We can't hear you, Vince. Any other questions? Trey, we'll go to Trey. Trey Wallace.
Jeremy, with the running back core that's at Tennessee right now, the guys in the group that you have, are you looking forward to any players stepping up that potentially maybe didn't get to see any action last year, or maybe that was minimized, especially with the absence now of Tim Jordan? How does that play into your game plan?
Well, we have plenty of guys that are very capable. You start with Chandler. Is a guy that has played a lot of ball here. Air great. Will be in his second year. Carlin Films Ames is a guy that was a running back early on in his career, and we moved him, and then he unfortunately suffered an injury last year, but a guy that has experience. And then you got T. Hodge and Jabari Smalls and Laneith Whitehead, guys that we signed that are in here and working. So we have guys there at that position that will get an opportunity, and we have confidence in those guys.
One last question: getting back in the office with the rest of your staff, GAs and whatnot, what has that process been like, trying to get things back to normal and maybe get off these Zoom calls and actually have face-to-face interaction?
Well, I mean, with technology today, it's not hampered us in any way. We've been able to be pretty efficient in what we're trying to get done, and we've continued to do that. And, we've not always met face-to-face. We've kind of done a lot of meetings within our offices. So we've just kind of continued to execute the plan that we started back in March, and our staff has really done a nice job of that.
We got time for a couple more questions. We'll go to Wes Rucker, followed by Jimmy Himes.
Jeremy, I think that Texas today released a statement saying it had 13 players that tested positive. I think Bama maybe had 7 when their guys came back. Have y'all had any positive tests for COVID?
No. With our players, no. We had one graduate assistant.
Thanks.
Jimmy?
Jeremy, you said that the majority of your players are back and the rest will come in July. How many is that in July that you're expecting to be there?
Well, I don't know the exact number, but we have a few guys that aren't back yet. Some of it's circumstances of where they're located. Some of it, was Father's Day. There's no reason to come back and then go back. So and then we have a group of walk-ons that will come back in a couple of weeks. So I don't know the exact number, but we'll have the entirety of our team back in July.
What's the number of walk-ons that you can have? Do you know?
Well, you can have 120 players.
Right. So all of the walk-ons. So that leaves you with 35 walk-ons. So all of those can report in July. Is that correct?
I was going to let you do the math on that, Jimmy.
I think I did it right. But you expect all the walk-ons to be available in July. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Vince, did you want to try again? Can you hear us?
Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay, lost internet. Sorry about that. Jeremy, any other roster changes? Anyone decide not to return? Any medical retirements besides Jordan that you mentioned earlier with your scholarship players?
No, not right now.
Okay.
All right, Coach has time for one more question. Anybody? All good. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll get this audio recording to you quickly, and I'll email it out to you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks,
Thanks,
Jeremy.
Bill.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.